Chalo, let's do this. This is May June 2024, paper 1, variant 2. Let's start. Initially, you have some constant key values, then you have this very good question. What is a scalar quantity? This question is given so that you guys can pass. A quantity that can be represented by two perpendicular components? No. A quantity that does not require a unit? No. A quantity without a direction? C is your answer. Let's move on to part 2. The value of quantity x has a percentage uncertainty of 2%. The value of quantity y has a percentage uncertainty of 4%. The value of w is calculated from the value of x and y perfect. The value of w has a percentage uncertainty of 8%. What could be the relationship between w, x, and y? What could be the relationship between w, x, and y? If you analyze, option A cannot be your answer. Why? Because if W is equals to XY, then the percentage uncertainty of W is equals to the percentage uncertainty of X plus the percentage uncertainty of Y, which will be 2 plus 4, which will be equal to 6. This cannot be your answer. B cannot be your answer as well. That's why. Let's try out. Let's try out option C. Let's try out option C. In option C, your W is equals to what? X over Y square. That means the percentage uncertainty in W is equal to the percentage uncertainty in X plus 2 times the percentage uncertainty in Y. What is the percentage uncertainty in X2? What is the percentage uncertainty in Y4? This comes out to be 10%. Now this also cannot be my answer. Let's try out option D. Let's try out option D. If you look at option D, percentage uncertainty in W is equals to what? Percentage uncertainty in Y plus 2 times the percentage uncertainty in X. What is the percentage uncertainty in Y4 plus 2 times the percentage uncertainty in X2? This comes out to be 8% as your answer. Simple. D is your answer. Let me check it as well. Yeah, 2 ka answer is D. A football is kicked so that it moves vertically upwards through the air. Perfect. So air is present. What is the variation in the air resistance and the resultant force acting on the ball as it moves vertically upwards? Perfect. As the ball is moving vertically upwards, what do you think is happening? As the ball is moving vertically upwards, what do you think is happening? Your velocity is decreasing. As your ball is moving upwards, as your ball is moving upwards, what do you think is happening? Your velocity is decreasing. Why is that the case? Because acceleration due to gravity is acting downward like this. A is equals to 9.81 ms minus 2. Acceleration is acting downward. So your velocity is decreasing. As velocity decreases, air resistance should decrease. So C and D will not be your options. C and D will not be your options. Either A can be your option or B can be your option. Okay. Now, if your air resistance is decreasing, what will happen? Your resultant force will also decrease. If your air resistance is decreasing, your resultant force will also decrease. Sir, why do you say that? Sir, एयर रेजिस्टेंस अगर कम हो रही है तो रिजल्टेंट फोर्स को बढ़ना नहीं चाहिए. नो, बिकॉज यू हैव फेल्ड टू रियलाइज वन थिंग हियर. Air resistance always acts opposite to the motion. Beta, this question was a little common sense based. Air resistance always acts opposite to the motion. If you are moving upwards, air resistance will act downward. Weight is also acting downward. So if your velocity decreases, air resistance decreases, your resultant force that is acting downwards decreases. A is your answer. Does this make sense? Beta समझ आई बात? Yes or no? Hmm. This will be played a lot in examinations. Air resistance always acts opposite to motion. air resistance will always act opposite to the motion, and this will help you a lot. If your ball is moving upward, if your ball is moving upward, your air resistance, just as in this scenario, will be acting downward. If your ball is moving downward, your air resistance will be moving or acting upward. This was the case for terminal velocity. And same happens. Chalo, let me divert a bit and explain you something that is of utmost importance. Just as air resistance acts in air, just as air resistance acts in air, there is a resistive force known as viscous drag that acts in liquids, and it also has the same characteristics. If your ball is moving upward, your viscous drag will act downward. If your ball is moving downward, your viscous drag will act upward. अच्छा, एक और फोर्स के साथ सेम सिनेरियो होता था. कैन एनीवन टेल मी? यस, इफ एनीवन कैन टेल मी, एक और फोर्स ऑपोजिट टू द मोशन एक्ट करती थी. यस, एनी जीनियसेस हु कैन टेल मी. एएस लेवल में तीन फोर्सेस होती थी जो ऑपोजिट टू मोशन एक्ट करती हैं: एयर रेजिस्टेंस, विस्कस ड्रैग, एंड व्हाट इज द थर्ड फोर्स?
टेंशन।
ना 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 ना, बहुत ही गलत. नो नो नो. यस, व्हाट इज द थर्ड फोर्स जीनियसेस? एएस फिजिक्स इतनी पढ़ी है, याद ही नहीं है तुम लोगों को? वेरी गुड. फ्रिक्शन ऑल्सो एक्ट्स ऑपोजिट टू द मोशन. फ्रिक्शन ऑल्सो एक्ट्स ऑपोजिट टू द मोशन बेटा. अगर आपकी बॉल राइट साइड पे मूव कर रही है, तो योर फ्रिक्शन विल एक्ट टूवर्ड्स द लेफ्ट. If your ball is moving towards the left side, your friction will be towards the right side. So this
सर
is
टेंशन में भी यही नहीं होता, टेंशन
ना 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 ना.
वेट के ऑपोजिट एक्ट होता है,
नो
लाइक
नो
वेट
नो.
डाउनवर्ड लग रहा है तो टेंशन फोर्स
अब
अपर लगती
अब
है।
अब मुझे थोड़ी और थ्योरी बतानी पड़ेगी यहाँ पे, तुम लोग का हाल देख के. चलो एक और मिनट रुको. लेट्स जस्ट फोकस. एक और मिनट, ये कॉपी कर लेने बेटा. नाउ टेंशन पे आ जाओ. बेटा, टेंशन डजंट एक्ट ऑपोजिट टू द मोशन. टेंशन की एक स्पेसिफिक डायरेक्शन होती है. टेंशन ऑलवेज acts away from the object. Away from the object और opposite to the motion में difference होता है. Tension always acts away from the object. Sir, what do you mean by that? Let's say बेटा, ये एक stone है. ठीक है, ये एक stone है. It is attached to a string. How will the tension act? Away from the stone. Simple. Tension हमेशा away act करती है. Let's say this is a mass. Slotted mass है, ठीक है कोई. इससे आपने एक स्ट्रिंग अटैच किया हुआ है. टेंशन ऑलवेज एक्ट्स अवे फ्रॉम द ऑब्जेक्ट. ठीक है, चलो. यू कैन कॉपी दिस डाउन इफ यू वांट टू. थ्योरी में याद रहेगा. चलो, लेट्स मूव अहेड. Which statement is not correct? Acceleration can be determined from the gradient of velocity time graph. Yeah, perfectly correct. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Perfectly correct. Displacement can be determined from the area under the velocity time graph. Perfectly correct. Velocity is the rate of change of distance. Incorrect. This should be displacement. D is your answer. Let's see this. The diagram shows a laboratory experiment in which a feather falls from rest. Okay, so your initial velocity is zero in a long evacuated vertical tube of length L. Perfect. Initially, you are starting from zero ki velocity. This is your length L. The feather takes time t to fall from the top to the bottom of the tube. Perfect. How does the feather fall from the how far does the feather fall from the top of the tube in time 0.5 t? बेटा, एग्जामिनर आपसे बहुत ही मासूमाना सवाल पूछ रहा है. एग्जामिनर इज सेइंग दैट अगर टाइम टी लग रहा है पूरी लेंथ फॉल करने में, व्हाट इज द डिस्टेंस फॉलन इन 0.5 टी? यस. हाउ विल यू राइट इट? देखो, थोड़ा सा सोचो, थोड़ा सा सोचो, थोड़ा सा सोचो. इफ यू सी हियर, The initial velocity is 0. Perfect. The distance traveled s is L. The time taken is capital T. Can you calculate the acceleration for this journey? Yes. S is equals to ut plus half a t square. Your u is 0. This becomes zeroed out. S is what? L is equals to half into acceleration a into capital T ka square. Acceleration comes out to be what? 2L divided by T square. This is your acceleration for the journey. Now you have the acceleration for the journey 2L divided by T square. Your initial speed is 0. Perfect. And you know that you are falling from a time of what? 0.5t. Can you calculate the distance s? Can you calculate the distance s? Yes, s is equals to ut plus half at square. This again gets zeroed out. S is equals to half into acceleration, that is 2L divided by t square into 0.5 t ka whole square. 2 cancelled out. S is equals to what? L over t square into 0.25 t square cancelled out. What is the remaining value? S is equals to 0.25 L. B is your answer. Simple as that. Is this clear? I have applied S is equals to ut plus half t square 2 times. Nothing complicated here. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं भाई. A car travels along a straight horizontal road. The graph shows how the variation of velocity of car for the 6 seconds of the journey. So this is the velocity time graph for the 6 seconds of the journey. The brakes are applied from time t is equals to 1 second to 4 seconds. Perfect. How far does the car travel while the brakes are applied? Okay, so we have to calculate how far does the car travel between t is equals to 1 till t is equals to 4 seconds. In this period, we have to calculate the distance. This will be what? This will be the area under the velocity time graph. Can you realize what is this? Can you guys realize what is this? This is a trapezium. This is a trapezium. Can you calculate the area of this trapezium? Yeah, pretty easy to calculate. This will be what? 1 upon 2 into sum of parallel sides. What are the parallel sides? This is the one parallel side, that is 8. The second parallel side is 22. 22 plus 8 into the height. What is the height? From 1 to 4, the height is 3. The area comes out to be 1 upon 2 into 30 into 3. This becomes 1, this becomes 15. The answer is 45 meters. B is your answer. 6 ka answer comes out to be B. Let's further move ahead. Let's move ahead. Two satellites in deep space collide inelastically. Perfect. What happens to the total kinetic energy and total momentum? If you are colliding inelastically, what will happen? Total kinetic energy will reduce. The total momentum remains conserved. C is your answer. What is the reasonable estimate of a family car traveling at 25 km per hour? First of all, here you have to convert 25 km per hour into meters per second. So 25 km per hour can be written as what? How can you convert it into meters per second? Let's say this is 25 km divided by hour. What will you do? 25 multiplied by 1000 divided by 3600. What will your meters per second come out to be? 25 into 1000 divided by 3600. This comes out to be 6.9. The velocity comes out to be 6.9 ms minus 1. This is your velocity. Now, what is the mass of an average family car? What is the mass of an average family car? Let's say the mass of an average family car is assumed to be, let's say, 1000 kg. What will be the reasonable estimate of the momentum? Momentum is equals to mass into velocity. Mass is 1000 kg. Velocity is 7, let's say. This comes out to be 7000 kg ms minus 1, which is roughly equal to your option A, which is the closest to your option A. Beta, option A kya hai? 10,000. We are getting the momentum as 7,000. So this is the roughly equal estimate. Let's move on to question 9. A ball collides with a wall. Before the collision, the ball was moving with a velocity of 8 ms minus 1 to the right. After the collision, it moves with a velocity of 3 ms minus 1 towards the left. What is the change in velocity of the ball during the collision? So let's say this is a wall. Let's say this is a wall. Your ball is moving with a velocity of 8 ms minus 1 towards the right. It hits the wall and rebounds with a velocity of 3 ms minus 1. Can you calculate the change in velocity? Yeah, change in velocity is final velocity minus initial velocity. Let's say your left vectors are positive, your right vectors are negative. Final velocity is 3. Initial velocity is what? Negative 8. Your answer comes out to be 11 ms minus 1. Now this 11 ms minus 1 is towards the... A lead pallet is shot vertically upwards into a clay box that is stationary at the moment of impact but is able to rise freely after impact. Perfect. The mass of the pallet is 5 grams. Mass of the clay box is 95 grams. The pallet hits the block with an initial velocity of 200 ms minus 1. It embeds itself in the block and does not emerge. How high above its initial position will the block rise? How high above the initial position will the block rise? So, what will you say here? What will you say here, first of all? You will say that total momentum, total momentum before collision is equals to total momentum after collision. Total momentum after collision. Perfect. Okay, what is the total momentum before collision? Only we have a 5 gram pallet traveling at a velocity of 200. So let's convert 5 gram into kilogram. 0.005 multiplied by 200 plus a momentum of 0 because the clay block is stationary is equals to the total momentum after collision. What will be the total mass after collision? 0.1 kg. We don't know the velocity, that is v. So 0.005 into 200 divided by 0.1 will be your velocity of the block and the pallet after collision. This will be the velocity of the block and the pallet after collision. This comes out to be 10. 10 ms minus 1 will be the velocity combined of the block and the pallet upward moving. Perfect. Now, how can you calculate the maximum height above the initial position? You can say kinetic energy. Okay, let's put this working to this side. Let's put this working to this side. Now you can conveniently say that kinetic energy will get converted into what? Gravitational potential energy. What is the kinetic energy? 1 upon 2 m v square. What is the gravitational potential energy? M g h. M cancel out. Perfect. You have to calculate the height. Okay, what is the velocity? 10. So 10 squared divided by 2 into g, that is 9.81. What does your height comes out to be?
आंसर है
क्या कह रहे हो?
ए आंसर है
A, let me see. 10 का square divided by 2 into 9.81. Yeah, 5.1 is your answer. 5.1 is your answer. Simple as that. A is your answer. Shabash. Very good. Chalo, let's move ahead. Two forces act on an object. Which diagram represents a couple? Okay, so what are the properties of a couple? What are the properties of a couple? Couple is basically two forces, or you can say two equal forces two equal forces in opposite directions and they create a resultant moment. They create a resultant moment. Just by looking at the first 2 points, option C and D will be cancelled out. Because in option C and D, you have unequal forces. Now, option A. Can you see in option A, this 6 Newton force will cause a clockwise movement? This 6 Newton force will cause an anti-clockwise movement. Both these moments will get cancelled out. Your resultant moment will be zero. Hence, this cannot be your answer. Your couple should generate a resultant moment. B is your answer. Let's further move ahead. The diagram shows a uniform rod XY that is freely hinged to a vertical wall at point Y. The rod is at an angle of 60 degree to the wall. Perfect. So this is the rod at an angle of 60 degree to the wall. A force acts at an angle of 30 degree to the rod at end X. The rod has a weight of 3 Newton and is in equilibrium. What does the word of equilibrium mean? The word equilibrium means that resultant moment will be equal to 0. Perfect. What is the magnitude of force F? Okay, you have to calculate the magnitude of force F. How can you do that? First of all, let's see the moments. Let's see the moments that will be acting here. And let's take this as your pivot. Let's say this hinge is your pivot. Now, there are too many things to resolve here, so just sit back and relax. So, if this angle is 60, this angle is 90, what will this angle be? 30 degrees. Can you resolve this 3 Newton ka weight? Can you resolve this 3 Newton ka weight? Yes, this can be resolved into two components. One will be acting like this, that is perpendicular to what? One will be acting like this, that is perpendicular to what? Perpendicular to the plane, or you can say the rod. And the other will be acting down the slope like this. Perfect. Can you calculate this blue component of weight? Can you calculate this blue component of weight? Yeah, surely you can do that. This component will be equal to what? 3 cosine 30. Always remember, whenever you have weight on an incline, whenever you have weight on an incline, the component of weight perpendicular to incline, component of weight perpendicular to incline is what? Component of weight perpendicular to incline is what? W cosine 30. And component component of weight parallel to incline is what? Parallel to incline is what? W sine theta. So here your component of weight that is perpendicular to the incline is W cosine theta. We have written this. Okay. Now if you realize there is one more thing. This is a uniform rod. This is a uniform rod. That means this weight will be acting exactly in the middle. This distance will be what? Half x. This distance will be what? Half x. Take care. Now, can you resolve force F as well? Yeah, we can resolve force F as well. How will you resolve force F? This will be the vertical component of force F, F sine 30. And this will be the horizontal component of force F, that is F cosine 30. Can you realize that this horizontal component of force will generate a moment of zero? Why? Because it is passing through the pivot. Simple. Simple. This horizontal component of force F will generate a moment of zero because it is passing through the pivot. Perfect. And can you also realize that this force F will be acting at a complete distance of what? Half x and half x, complete x. So now this force F sine theta or F sine 30 will cause a moment of what? Will cause a moment of clockwise nature. This 3 cos 30 will cause a moment of anti-clockwise nature. Let's equate both of them. Clockwise is equals to anti-clockwise. What is the clockwise moment? F sine 30 multiplied by the distance, that is x. What is the anti-clockwise moment? 3 cosine 30 multiplied by the distance, that is half x. X cancel out. Can you calculate the force F? Yes. Force F is equals to 3 cosine 30 divided by sine of 30. Can anyone calculate this answer?
C.
th- क्या कह रहे हो सी?
हाँ.
एक सेकंड देखते हैं भाई, एक सेकंड. This comes out to be 5.2. D is your answer. This comes out to be 5.2. 1 second, which question is this? 12. Acha. Have we made a mistake here? Yes, we have made a mistake here. बेटा we have failed to account for this 2. ये 2 भी हमने account for करना है, तो yeah. Divide by 2. I guess C is the correct answer. Yeah, C is the correct answer. Shabash. Water has a density of 1 grams per centimeter cube. Glycerine has a density of 1.3 grams per centimeter cube. A student measures out a volume of 40 cm cube of glycerine into a container. Perfect. So let's highlight glycerine key quantities in yellow and let's highlight the water key quantities in blue. The student adds water to the container to make a mixture of water and glycerine. Perfect. Assume that the total volume of water and glycerine does not change when the two liquids are mixed. Which volume of water needs to be added to make a mixture of density 1.1? Okay, so you have to make a mixture of density 1.1. So how can you make a mixture of density 1.1? Total density is equals to what? Total density is equals to the total mass divided by the total volume. Perfect. Can you calculate the mass of glycerine? Yes. You have the density of glycerine, you have the volume of glycerine. Multiply both of them. This will come out to be what? 1.3 into 40. Do you have the mass of water? No. You only have the density of water, and let's assume the volume of water is x. So 1 into x will be your mass. What is the total volume? Total volume is 40 of glycerine, x of water. The total density is 1.1. Let's start resolving things. 1.3 into 40. This comes out to be 52. 1.1 is equals to 52 plus x divided by 40 plus x. Multiply to the other side. 1.1 into 40 plus x is equals to 52 plus x. Simple. 1.1 into 40. This comes out to be what? 44. Do you realize how calculation intensive AS ka paper is? 52 plus x. Bring it to the other side. 0.1 x is equals to 52 minus 44. This comes out to be 80 as your answer. D is your answer. 8 divided by 0.1 is equals to your x. Your x comes out to be what? 80 cm cube. D is your answer. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. If you have any questions, you may ask. The four resisting The force resisting the motion of a car is proportional to the square of the speed. Perfect. The magnitude of the force at a speed of 20 ms minus 1 is 800 Newton. Perfect. So, what is the examiner saying? The force is directly proportional to velocity ka square. At a velocity of 20 ms minus 1, you have a force of 800. Perfect. What useful power output is required from the car's engine to maintain a steady speed of this? Perfect. What a beautiful question. So if you have a speed of 20, your force is 800. Perfect. So what can you do here? Force is equals to kv square. Force is 800. Okay, k is unknown. Velocity is 20 ka square. K comes out to be 2. Simple. Now, if K is 2, can you apply this to this 40 ms minus 1? Yeah. Force is equals to kv square. Perfect. Force is equals to what? K is 2 into velocity ka square, that is 40 square. This comes out to be 3200 Newton force. Now you don't have any answer like that. Now you don't have any answer like that. And A is a very misleading option. A is a very misleading option. A cannot be your answer. Now, what will we do here? Do you remember the formula of power is what? Force into velocity. Force is 3200. Velocity is 40. Can you guys calculate the answer? By answer comes out to be 128 kilowatts. C is your answer. Simple, nothing complicated, just common sense. Chalo. Let's see this question. A box of weight W is pulled by a force P along a slope. Perfect. The length of the slope is d. Perfect. And the box rises a height of h. The frictional force between the box and the slope is F. Perfect. The diagram shows the direction of the force is perfect. The purpose of the slope is to raise the block vertically. Perfect. The purpose of the slope is to raise the block vertically. Which expression gives the efficiency of the slope? Okay, we have to calculate the efficiency of the slope. How can we do that? How can we calculate the efficiency of the slope? What is efficiency equal to? Efficiency is equals to energy output divided by the energy input. You are pulling this box by a force of P along a distance of d. So, what is the energy input or what is the work done? The work done in the input direction is P multiplied by d. What is the energy output? The energy output is the gravitational potential energy that is gained, W into the height, W into h. Any answers like that? D is your answer. The kinetic energy of a particle increases by a factor of 4. By what factor does the speed increases? बेटा ये उसने आपको पास करने के लिए सवाल दिया है, ये एग्जामिनर ने आपको पास करने के लिए सवाल दिया है. इफ यू एग्जामिन द फॉर्मूला ऑफ kinetic energy is equals to 1 upon 2 mv square. Can you realize 1 upon 2 m can remain constant? Mass or 1 upon 2 constant है. That means kinetic energy is directly proportional to velocity square. If your velocity increases by a factor of 2, your kinetic energy will become 4 times. So what is your answer? A is your answer. A mass of 28 grams is raised vertically upwards through a distance of 4.8 meters. What is the change in gravitational potential energy of the mass? You have to calculate the change in gravitational potential energy of the mass. Change in gravitational potential energy is equals to what? Mass g into change in height. What is mass? 28 grams. 0.028. What is g? 9.8. What is change in height? 4.6. Can you calculate the change in gravitational potential energy, beta? Can you calculate the change in gravitational potential energy, beta? This comes out to be 4.6. The answer is 1.26. B is your answer. Simple as that, nothing complicated. एक दफ़ा हम 10 से 20 क्वेश्चंस कर लें, लाइक MCQ 10 से 20, फिर मैं आपसे पूछता हूँ कि इफ़ यू फाइंड एनीथिंग डिफिकल्ट देन यू कैन आस्क. Okay, what is the behavior? Okay, let's read this out. A sample of metal is subjected to a force which increases to a maximum value and then decreases back to zero. A force extension graph for the sample is shown. When the sample contracts, it follows the same force extension graph. So when the sample is contracting, it follows the same force extension curve as it being stretched. What does this mean? This means that your deformation is elastic. If your graph follows the same curve during loading and during unloading, that means your graph is following elastic behavior only. C is your answer. The Graph is only following elastic behavior and not plastic. Let's further move ahead. Two wires P and Q are of the same material. What does the meaning of same material is here? This means that you have the same Young's modulus. This means that you have the same Young's modulus. Simple. Are stretched with an increasing force. A graph is plotted of the variation with force of extension of each wire. So force versus extension graph is plotted. The wires have the same original length but different diameters. The wires have the same original length but different diameters. What is the ratio of the diameter of Q divided by the diameter of P? You have to calculate the ratio of the diameter of Q divided by the diameter of P. What is the easiest possible way to do this question? You can create compartments. You can say this is P, this is Q. Perfect. Since both of them are made of the same material, both of them will have the same Young's modulus. This is E. This is E. Perfect. Both of them have the same original length. Let's say this is L. This is L. Both of them are having the same force F and F. Perfect. What is the extension? The extension of P is 3. The extension of Q is 1. So you can say the extension of P is 3e, the extension of Q is E. Now, do you remember the formula of Young's modulus? E is equals to FL over AE. Can you make area the subject here, beta? Can you make area the subject here? Yes, area is equals to FL capital E small e. Can you calculate the area of P? Yeah, area of P is equals to FL E and 3e. Can you calculate the area of Q? Yeah, very easy to calculate the area of Q. FL E and small e. You have to calculate the ratio of diameter of Q divided by the diameter of P. First of all, let's calculate the ratios of area. Area of Q divided by the area of P. This comes out to be what? FL capital E small e divided by FL capital E 3e. Can you realize what will happen? FL cancel out E cancel out, this E will come to the top side. So the ratio of areas is coming out to be 3. Now do you remember the formula of area? Area is equals to pi over 4 du square. Can you realize area is directly proportional to diameter square? So if you have the ratios of area, what will you do? You will apply this formula here. Okay, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it digestible for everyone here. Can you calculate the area of Q? Yes. Pi over 4 dq square divided by pi over 4 dp square is equals to 3. Pi over 4 cancel out. Take an under root on both sides. Diameter of Q divided by diameter of P is equals to under root of 3. C is your answer. Although a lengthy question, but an easy question to solve if you form compartments before solving it. Always remember, whenever in examination you face an information overload type of a situation, you always make compartments or you always write information in a way that is easy to visualize. Chalo, let's move ahead. Let's move on to question 20. What is the spring constant of the spring? You have to just calculate the gradient here. What will you do? The force is 6, the extension is 15. Calculate the gradient here. F is equals to KE, F is 6, K is this, extension is 15. You will convert it into meters because all the answers are in meters. 0.15, K comes out to be 6 divided by 0.15. What is your answer? Your answer comes out to be, 1 second, 6 divided by 0.15.
40.
Yeah, 40 is your answer. बेटा any ambiguities here? MCQ 10 से लेकर 20 तक movies, any ambiguities? A man stands stationary in front of a swing. A child sits and swings perfect. The child blows a whistle that emits a sound at constant frequency. अच्छा ये जो child है वो एक whistle blow कर रहा है ठीक है. The man observes the frequency of the sound when the swing is at position X, Y, and Z. Perfect. When will the man hear the highest frequency? When will the man hear the highest frequency? When the swing is what? When the swing is moving towards the man. C is your answer. बेटा जब स्विंग आपकी तरफ मूव कर रहा होगा then only you will hear the highest frequency. C is your answer. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Okay. A loudspeaker is playing music in a room. The door is open and has a width of this. Perfect. So the door is open and has a width of this. Sounds of many different frequencies pass through the doorway and diffract. The sound has a speed of this in the air. Which frequency of sound wave diffract the most? Okay. So when does maximum diffraction occurs? Can you guys tell me when does maximum diffraction occurs? Maximum diffraction occurs when the wavelength is equal to what? Width of the door. When the wavelength is equal to the width of the door, that means you have the maximum diffraction. Now you have the speed, you have the frequency. Can you calculate the wavelength for each of these sounds A, B, C, D? Yeah, you can do that. Let's start with A. Although this is a labor process, but we will have to do it. A's physics is more mathematics than physics. Option A में क्या करेंगे बेटा? V is equals to F lambda. V is 340 divided by the frequency 2.4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. Can you calculate the lambda here? Yes. One thing that you can do is you can create fractions in the calculator and just keep on changing the values. Calculator में fraction create कर लो and just keep on changing the values. No, this cannot be your answer. Let's A is not your answer. Let's try out option B. Let's change the frequency in the calculator and try out option B. Option B gives you an answer of 4 to 5 meters. That is also not your option. Let's try out option C. 2.7. And I would really advise you guys to do this alongside because you will realize how many calculations do you have to do. Now option C is also not your answer because in option C you have a wavelength of 1.25 meters.
सर
Let's
डी
try
है उसमें 0.79 आ रहा है, एक
0.79 आ रहा है.
अप्रोक्सीमेट स्पीड.
चलो लेट्स
जी.
सी भाई शाबाश वेरी गुड गुड स्पीड एट यूजिंग द कैलकुलेटर. देखो कैलकुलेटर स्पीड जिस स्पीड से आप कैलकुलेटर यूज करते हो दैट आल्सो डिटरमाइंस योर ग्रेड इन एएस. या this comes out to be this gives a wavelength of 0.79 meters which is roughly equal to the gap size. D is your answer. Simple. सो प्लीज़ 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 बेटा जब भी आप यहाँ पे प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो खुद भी कैलकुलेटर में थोड़ा करो. A stationary sound wave is set up between a loudspeaker and a wall. Perfect. A microphone is connected to a cathode ray oscilloscope and move along a line directly between the loudspeaker and the wall. The amplitude of the trace on the CRO rises to maximum at a position X, falls to a minimum, and then rises once again to a maximum at position Y. Perfect. The distance between X and Y is 33 centimeters. The speed of sound is this. Which diagram represents the trace of the sound received at point X? So there are many things happening here. देखो बेटा एग्जामिनर आपको दो चीज़ों से कंफ्यूज करता है एग्जामिनेशन में और उसके पास कोई ट्रिक नहीं है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंफॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड. सेकंड ऑफ ऑल ये क्या करेगा बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज़ दे के बहुत ही सिंपल सवाल पूछ लेगा. सो हेयर वी आर हैविंग एन इंफॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड. बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें दी हुई हैं तो लेट्स हाईलाइट सम ऑफ द थिंग्स. A CRO is moved along a line between the loudspeakers on the wall. The amplitude of the trace on the CRO rises to a maximum at point X. That means at point X you have what? An antinode. Falls to a minimum. That means you have a node. And then rises to again to a maximum value at position Y. That means at position Y you have an antinode. So at position X you have antinode, at position Y you have antinode. The distance between these two positions is 33 centimeters. From antinode to antinode, what is your difference in terms of lambda? Half lambda. 33 centimeters is equals to half lambda. Lambda will be equal to 66 centimeters. Perfect. What is your speed of sound? 330 ms minus 1. Perfect. So can you do a thing here? V is equals to f lambda. Your velocity is 330. Perfect. In place of frequency, I am writing 1 over time period. In place of lambda, I am writing 0.66. Can I calculate the time period, bacho? Yes, 0.66 divided by 330. What is your time period? 0.66 divided by 330. This comes out to be 2 into 10 is the power of minus 3. 2 into 10 is the power of minus 3 is your time period. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that your one wave should get completed in this amount of time. Let's examine option A. This is zero point 0.5 seconds, zero point 0.5 seconds, 1 second. This is 1.5, 2. This is 2.5, 3 seconds, 3.5, and 4 seconds. No, this cannot be your answer. This cannot be your answer. Let's try out option B. In option B, this is 1 second, or 1 into 10 is the power of minus 3 seconds. And this is also 1 into 10 is the power of minus 3 seconds. So if you combine these two times, you will get a total time period of what? You will get a total time period of 2 into 10 is the power of minus 3 seconds. Yeah, this is correct. B is your answer. Simple as that. बेटा CRO वाला सवाल समझ आया सबको? Yes or no? Hmm. चलो, let's move ahead. Polarization is associated with certain waves, which waves cannot be polarized. Obviously, longitudinal waves cannot be polarized. Sound is a longitudinal wave. V is your answer. A guitar string is plugged. Which statement describes the resulting waves? Longitudinal waves on the string? No. A guitar string is plugged. Okay. So if a guitar string is plugged, what will happen? It will generate transverse waves on the string. बेटा स्ट्रिंग में जो है वो ट्रांसवर्स वेव इंड्यूस होंगी. And in the air, you will have longitudinal waves. In the air, you will have longitudinal waves. However, the guitar will have a diffraction grating with n lines per meter is used to diffract light of various wavelength lambda. ठीक है. A diffraction grating with n lines per meter is used to diffract light of
आंसर डी होगा.
नहीं 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 नहीं. Just wait a minute. A diffraction grating is with n lines per meter is used to diffract light of various wavelengths. The graph shows the relationship between the angle and the wavelength for different lambdas. Okay, what is the gradient of the graph? Okay, what will be the gradient of the graph? We know that this is the formula for diffraction grating. D sine theta is equals to n lambda. Sine theta is equals to n over d into lambda. Can you realize if you plot this on the y-axis, this on the x-axis, your gradient will be equal to n over d. Now you will say sir, किसी भी ऑप्शन में d नहीं है. ये तो आप गलत फिजिक्स पढ़ा रहे हैं. किसी भी ऑप्शन में d नहीं है. But you have to realize what is d. You have to realize what is grating space or this d. This d is 1 divided by the total number of lines per meter. So can you replace this d by 1 over capital N? The answer comes out to be n into capital N. A is your answer. A stationary sound wave is formed in the air column inside a tube that is open at both ends. The stationary wave has 3 nodes. How many antinodes does it have? So बेटा इस तरह के सवालों में I usually advise you to draw that drawing. ठीक है? The stationary wave is open at both ends. Perfect. If you are open at both ends, that means you will have an antinode here as well. You will have an antinode here as well. You have this node. You have this node. You have this node. Perfect. So, somewhat like this. Somewhat like this. Like this. This is your antinode, 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 antinode. How many antinodes? Four antinodes. Simple. 27 ka answer is D. Let's further move ahead. Interference fringes of separation x are observed on the screen at a distance of 1 meter. So distance is 1 meter. Okay, wavelength is this, perfect. At which distance from the double slit would interference fringes of the same separation be observed when wavelength of blue light of wavelength this is used? Perfect. So let's say currently you have x for yellow light. Your x for yellow light looks something like this. X for yellow light is like this. Lambda d over a. Perfect. What is lambda? 600. Perfect. What is d? 1. And let's say the slit separation is a. Perfect. Now, you have a blue light. You have blue light. Perfect. For blue light, you have to do what? You have to tell at what distance of d, at what distance of d will the same fringe separation be observed. So you will say x is equals to lambda is what? 400 into d divided by a. Let's equate both of them. 600 into 1 divided by a is equals to 400 into d divided by a. A gets cancelled out. D comes out to be what? 600 divided by 400 is your D. 600 divided by 400 is your D, which comes out to be 1.5 meters. The answer to 28 is D. Simple. Let's further move ahead. What is the potential difference across a component? Energy transferred per unit charge. See, ये easy सवाल क्यों देता है examiner? So that you can save up some time here. ये literally 10 seconds में हो जाएगा. So that you can apply the other time on different questions. The diagram shows a cell of negligible internal resistance connected to a switch and two resistors of resistance R and capital 2R. The circuit also contains two ammeters X and Y. The reading on ammeter X is 4 ampere. Perfect. The reading on ammeter X here is 4 ampere. Perfect. When the switch is open. Perfect. So when the switch is open, you have a resistance of R. The reading is 4 ampere. What are the readings on X and Y after the switch is closed? So after the switch is closed, what happens? After the switch is closed, what happens to your total resistance? Initially, your total resistance was R. Now, what will your resistance become? 1 over R plus 1 over 2R is equals to 1 over RT. This will become 2 plus 1 over 2R is equals to 1 over RT. 2R divided by 3 is your total resistance now. So initially your resistance was R. Now your resistance is 2R over 3. Can you see your resistance has decreased by a factor of 2 over 3? Your current will increase by a factor of what? 3 over 2. It was initially 4 ampere. Now it will become what? 4 into 3 over 2. That is 1, 2, 6 ampere. Option A and B will get cancelled out. You also have to calculate the reading on Y. If this has become 6 ampere, can you realize that current flows more through the path of least resistance? So a 4 ampere current will flow here, 2 ampere will flow here. C is your answer. Is question 20 से लेकर 30 तक clear to all of you? Any ambiguities, any confusions here? So the current voltage characteristics for four components A, B, C, D are shown. Which component has the greatest resistance? Which component has the greatest resistance when the potential difference V1 is applied? Very, very easy to calculate. Now, what is the formula of resistance? Resistance is equals to voltage over current. Now here, can you see we are keeping the voltage as constant? Beta चारों की चार wires में we are getting the same voltage. In all the four wires, we are applying the same voltage. Where will the resistance be the greatest? If the voltage is becoming constant, can you realize resistance and current are inversely proportional? Where will the resistance be the largest? the current, the wire in which the current is the smallest will have the largest resistance. Where is the current smallest? The current is the smallest in wire D. D is your answer. Simple as that. Nothing complicated. I hope so. You get this one. Let's further move ahead. A cylindrical wire has cross sectional area A. Number density of free electrons is N. Perfect. The wire has current I and free electrons have an average drift speed of V. Perfect. A second cylindrical wire has a cross sectional area of 0.25 A. Number density of free electrons 2N. In this wire, the free electrons have a drift velocity of 2V. What is the current in the second wire? Perfect. Whenever you have such a question, what do? You create compartments. Let's say this is the first wire, and let's say this is the second wire, and let's create a partition now in between them. Have we studied any formula for current? Yes, current is equals to NAQV. What is the number of electrons for the first wire? N. What is the area of the first wire? A. What is the charge of the first wire? Since they are electrons, the charge will remain Q. What is the drift velocity? V. So the current in the first wire is I. This I is equals to NAQV. Let's calculate the current for the second wire. The current for the second wire will have how many number of electrons? 2n. You can see here it has 2n number of electrons. The area is 0.5 A. The charge is Q because they are also free electrons. The drift velocity is 2v. Can you calculate the current here? The current here will be 2 times 2 and multiplied by 0.5, that is 2 NAQV. The current in the second wire is 2 times of NAQV. And what is NAQV equal to? What is NAQV equal to? I. So you will replace this NAQV with I. This comes out to be 2I as your answer. C is your answer. Simple as that. An electric current is formed by moving charges. What is not a possible charge on a charge carrier? Beta, always remember that the charges. Acha, let me introduce this concept. Always remember charges are quantized. Remember
भी
this.
होगा
क्या कह रहे हो बेटा?
इसमें भी होगा
Ah, shabash. Very, very good. Always remember this concept that charges are quantized. Charges are quantized. Now, what do you mean by the term of quantized, sir? By quantized, I mean that charges are in multiples of what? 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 coulomb. Your charges on a charge carrier are in the multiples of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. What are multiples of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19? 3.2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. 4.8 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. 6.4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19, and so on and so forth. Also remember, also remember that if you multiply 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 by 0, the answer will be 0 coulomb. So 0 coulomb is also a multiple of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. I think this was tested in a recent MCQ, so I'm telling it here. 0 coulomb is also a multiple of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 coulomb. Which one is not a multiple of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 coulomb? 2.4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. Which description of Kirchhoff's first law is correct? It considers the current at a junction in a circuit and is a consequence of the conservation of charge. Yeah, this seems correct. Kirchhoff's first law considers what? Currents at a junction, and it is a consequence of what? Conservation of charge. Simple. Let's move on to question 35. Two resistors of resistances small r and capital R are connected in parallel. The value of a small r is less than that of r. So whenever you have such type of questions, it is better if you state numerical terms. Let's say this resistor is of 2 ohms, this resistor is of 1 ohm, because the value of R is less than that of R. Simple numerical terms, no need to write overstated numerical terms. Which statement about the combined resistance of the two resistors is correct? Let's calculate the combined resistance as well. Can you see both of them are in parallel? So 1 over RT is equals to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. 1 over RT is equals to what? 1.5. 1 plus 0 0.5 is 1.5. 1 over 1.5 is equals to your total resistance. This comes out to be 0.67 ohm. Simple. It is between small r and capital R. No. It is equals to r plus capital R. No. It is greater than r plus capital R. No. It is less than the small r. D is your answer. Can you realize the small r was 1 ohm? It is less than the small r, that is 0.67 ohms. Simple as that, nothing complicated. Let's further move ahead. The diagram shows four identical resistors connected in a circuit. Which resistor dissipates the most power? Which resistor dissipates the most power? Now, please pay attention on the wordings of the question. Four identical resistors. You have four identical resistors. That means the resistance of A will be R, the resistance of B will be R, the resistance of C will be R, and the resistance of D will be R. Now, if you apply this formula of power, power is equals to I square R. This
सर इसका ए आंसर है।
Yes, beta, इसका आंसर है. If resistance is getting constant, if resistance is getting constant, you can write power is directly proportional to current का square. अब अगर resistance, if your resistance was constant बेटा, अगर आपकी resistance constant थी, power will be directly proportional to current का square. Simple. Now, which of these resistors will have the greatest power? Which of these resistors will have the greatest power or the maximum power? The resistor which will have the largest current. The resistor which will have the largest current. Can you realize B, C, and D will only get portions of the current? Let's say we have a 3 ampere current here in the starting. B and C will get a lower current due to their higher resistance, let's say 1 ampere. This D will get a greater current due to its lower resistance. But can you realize that the current is splitting at this point, at this blue highlighted junction? And neither B nor C nor D will be getting the complete current. Only resistor A, only resistor A will be getting the complete current, that is 3 ampere. So resistor A is getting the maximum current. Hence the power of resistor A will be maximum. A is your answer. Let's move ahead. A nuclide X with proton number Z undergoes beta positive decay. Always remember whenever you are going beta positive decay, what happens to your proton number? Whenever you are going beta positive decay, your proton number gets subtracted by 1. Perfect. So your answer will be Z minus 1 में से कोई. C and D will get cancelled out. The decay may be represented by the equation shown. What is the proton number of Y? The proton number of Y will be what? Z minus 1. Perfect. And which particle is represented by the symbol W? Which particle is represented by the symbol W? Always remember whenever beta particles are released, what are released with the beta particles? Neutrinos. B is your answer. Let me see if anyone has answered in the chat. No, beta, B will be your answer. Always remember beta particles, beta positive particles के साथ you always get a neutrino. And let me write it here. Beta positive particles will always have a neutrino with them. And beta negative particles will always have an anti-neutrino with them. They will always have an anti-neutrino with them. Simple. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. Which fundamental particle forms a hadron? Okay, which fundamental particle forms a hadron? Do you remember hadrons were structures made up of quarks? So D is your answer. Let's further move ahead. The unstable nuclei 218X84 decays through a sequence of emissions alpha and beta particles to form the stable nuclei 21083Y. How many alpha and beta particles are emitted during this decay process? Perfect. So let's say you have initially a nucleus. Let's say this is your nucleus 21884. And you want to go to this nucleus, that is Y83210. Can you realize that the nucleon number or the mass number is decreasing by how much? Nucleon number or mass number is decreasing by 8. That means how many alpha particles are emitted? One alpha particle can decrease the mass number by 4. If you want to decrease the mass number by 8, two alpha particles will be emitted. So either B or C will be your option. A and D gets cancelled out. Now let's say this is your particle X. You emit two alpha particles. You emit two alpha particles. What will your mass number be? 210. Yeah, correct. Now whenever you emit an alpha particle, your proton number also decreases by 2. If you are emitting two alpha particles, your proton number will decrease by 4. Let's say this is your answer. 21080. This is your answer. But if you realize you want the final proton number to be what? You want the final proton number to be 83. Your current proton number is 80. What will you do? You will emit 3 beta particles, because the emission of one beta negative particle causes the proton number to increase by 1. If you want to increase the proton number by 3, you will decay by 3 beta particles. C is your answer. Simple as that. Which statement about radioactive decay is correct? Which statement about radioactive decay is correct? Neutrinos are always emitted during alpha decay? No. The alpha particle emitted from a radioactive source? No. The beta particle emitted from a radioactive source have a continuous range of kinetic energy? C is your answer. Simple as that. Any questions in this paper, beta? Any ambiguities, any questions in this paper you guys can ask?